Welcome, everybody, to the Living Consciously television show, coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado internet studios, also streaming on YouTube Live, as well as Hangouts and ConsciousEvolutionMedia.com. I'm your host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our theme today is Conscious Eating for Health. And our guest this evening is Maggie Wildy. She's joining us from England. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. No, it's good evening there. How you doing? Trying to work out
and
the world I'm in.
It's way good night over there.
No, it's morning.
It's morning. Are you in Australia? Did I say the wrong country? Australia. Hey, say hi to Linda Dyer. She's also from Australia, right next to you on the left.
Good day, Linda.
Good day. It's actually lunchtime here.
So that is Linda Dyer. She's also joining us from Australia, where the kangaroos never stop running around. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. If you're ever concerned about the world ending, just ring us because we're already in the next day.
I am not concerned. It only ends when I'm no longer here.
That's right.
All right, so also let me introduce Ninon, who is on the right of our guest, Maggie. She's joining us, Ninon de Verderosa, joining us from that place where the lights never go out, and of course, that's Las Vegas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I tried putting all the lights out the other day, but every time I put one out, they came back on again, so I gave up and just went out and had a good time. Forget it. Have a good time.
There you go. All right, so we have this awesome theme, conscious eating for health, and I think it's an extremely appropriate theme because a lot of people are struggling with eating, not just eating disorders, but eating period. People don't know what to eat, and people don't know what program to go on. What's going on in the world, Maggie? Because I know this is not in Australia. This is a worldwide problem.
Absolutely, and Australia has huge issues with emotional eating problems. Our psychological society here recently did a survey, and 3 out of 4 people record that they are actually stress eating instead of eating for health. They're eating because of stressful days, anger management, trauma in the family, too busy to cope, and they're reaching for the plastic foods and takeaway foods rather than the nutritious foods, or they're lacking time to prepare the nutritious foods as well.
Well, yeah, well, that's the state of affairs here as well. So I am just I can't wait to explore with our dialogue here this evening more about conscious eating and how can we help the public, because obviously, if they knew what to do, they would have done it already.
Well, most people know what to do. Most people have an overload of information. There is, in every magazine, on every television show, they're always being told what they should be doing, and then they get conflicting information. Because one minute it's not safe to eat fats, and the next minute we should be eating fats. It's not safe to eat carbohydrates, and then we should be eating carbohydrates. So it's an overload of information, I think, and people are just not getting clarity in their own mind. And that's what I believe conscious eating is being able to understand the basis of nutrition, and that we need variety in our diet, but then to forget the information we've learned and just start turning to our body as a conscious being and listen to what our body needs. And when we listen to what our body needs, it tells us if it feels heavy when it eats certain foods. It tells us if it feels bloated and uncomfortable if it eats foods that are slightly allergic to. It tells us if it wants chicken instead of a McDonald's burger. It tells us what it wants. It's just that we've got so much noise in our head, we're not actually consulting our body.
Exactly right. So I gotta share this. So today, and I've been on this conscious eating project as you described it for 2 years. I lost over 60 pounds, and today I made a mistake.
Uh-oh. It was just your birthday.
I went, but I got to report this because this is interesting. I went into a donut shop and had a donut and some coffee. And the last time I had a donut was years ago. So guess what? I don't know what happened to me, not that it matters, but I was somehow craving it. Like I wanted a piece of donut. And I had my donut, and I got sick.
So why did you lose control, Steve? Because that's definitely not like you. When you're into something, you're usually pretty firm on it. So what triggered you off the little mountain?
Probably what Maggie said. There's a lot of stress in my life right now. And I thought, well, okay, I justified it. I did the justification game. I justified it that, hey, I've been working really hard, bringing consciousness to corporate America, and I deserve a treat. And I talked myself into having a piece of donut.
Well, could you find a better treat than that? I mean, you must not. That can't be the only treat, a donut. I mean, Steve, I know you're better than that. Couldn't you have had a glass of wine, or you could have had something else, not a donut? But mind you, I love donuts, especially those claw donuts, all the actual stuff in it.
But I only had one, and I have a friend that can eat a dozen of them, and it doesn't faze her. So, I forgave myself, but I got sick, like physically in my stomach. I felt sick. I came to the studio and I had to lay down for 15 minutes. That's how sick I felt. So
you've just had an experience of
I'm over it. I am over it. Yeah, but really, the stuff works if and when we are able to listen to what our body is saying, and we're connected. And I can probably safely say, in order for me to get that donut, I had to get disconnected. I was disconnected from my higher self.
Well, you were disconnected from your higher self, but you certainly were not disconnected to the donut. You were very well connected to the donut.
It disappeared pretty quickly.
Very fast, I would imagine.
Yes. So I just had to come clean because we're talking about the subject, and I know people assume that I don't know. I hear sometimes that people assume that we must be perfect and that we never do these naughty things. But I have to share that
we do.
In terms of me and myself and I do make mistakes time to time.
But don't we
I think what Maggie was saying was is that you recognise it. How interesting was that? That the minute you had that donut, you recognised how that sugar and whatever else was in there brought your body down instantly, and your gallbladder went, oh my gosh, I hate this, I can't stand this. We only need a teaspoon of something that's not good for us to throw our whole body out of whack. And the parasites in the bowel then go, oh, great, I'll have all that sugar, thank you. And then all of a sudden we're hungry again for something else that's similar. And that's what people will go and have more of, because that's the sort of thing that sugar does. It attracts more of the same. When I was getting through lupus, that was a huge thing for me. I was in the fitness industry, and it was the big thing was in pasta. There was pasta friggin' everywhere. You could get pasta this, pasta that. The spaghetti bolognese was the #1 meal in the world. It was bigger than McDonald's, believe it or not. So pasta, and then all of a sudden, the people came out and said, oh, no, we shouldn't be eating that much pasta. It's like...
What is all this about this gluten-free? Everybody's going on this gluten-free, but now we've got gluten-free. This has become very, very expensive, or you can't buy it as much as, or you have to really find it to buy it. What is this all about, this gluten-free, Maggie?
Gluten-free also, we have to watch the gluten-free products and read the labels, because a lot of gluten-free products are obviously very processed, and they have a lot of sugars in them as well. So, it's a balance between looking at, as far as I'm concerned, if it comes in a packet or if it comes in a container or in a tin or a can, it's been processed in some way, whether it's gluten or gluten-free. And so it's not, in reality, going to be a healthy choice for the body. There is going to be some side effect associated with the preservatives involved or with the processing techniques that have been used. So for me, it's about choosing between foods that are healthy, that are grown from the soil, preferably foods that are grown above the soil as well. Some foods that are grown below the soil, such as even good vegetables that we think would be fantastic, like sweet potatoes, etc. Because they're grown beneath the soil, they store sugars. So again, it's the sugars that are causing this distress to the body and causing the acidic body in order for us to begin to store more fat and things as well to protect the organs. So if we look at what Steve just did, yes, it is all about this unconscious program. It all of a sudden gave him an urge to do an old habit that he hasn't done for years. And because that program has been ignored for the last how many ever years, in a stressful moment, if that program hasn't been switched off, in a stressful moment, that program can often come forward, such as the instant urge that I need a donut for some reason. The thing with most people when they're not eating consciously and aren't used to eating consciously is that they have one donut and then it triggers the old program and they want another one and another one and another one. What Steve did was immediately recognize that the body felt uncomfortable. He'd taken himself away from consciousness, from his higher self, and he immediately connected back to his body again. That is conscious eating. It doesn't mean we're perfect. It means that we are connected and listening, and less of the unhealthy foods and less often. And it's about listening to how our body feels and what it wants, rather than saying to ourselves, well, we've made a mistake, therefore we've lost it, therefore what the hell, we'll just keep going. Where's the next donut?
Oh, no,
But I think Steve's consciousness is really tough on him because most of us could have a donut if we felt like it. Like I walk past a donut shop, we live above one, and I walk past it.
Oh my goodness!
And honestly,
how can you live with the smell? Oh my God! It smells so good.
And years ago, it would have been challenging, but once you take yourself off yeast and sugar, and you don't have those foods in your diet, you know that if you go and have one of those, I'm going to have to go and lie down, like you, Steve. What I loved about what your system did, instead of just giving you a bit of a tweak that wasn't a totally good thing to do, it almost hit you on the head with a shovel.
Oh, it took me down and reminded me that this is really not cool. This is I can't do this because it took me 2 years to cure myself from diabetes 2, and I am out of the woods. And I can tell you exactly the thought I had, and I know that I was disconnected because I remember this conversation. So this is how it exactly went. This is what I said: "To hell with it all. I'm gonna have what I want to have, and I'm gonna have it right now." And I just drove right there in front of the store, went in and got what I wanted, ate it, and then I paid for it.
Well, that's okay. You can have a treat once in a while. But Maggie, I want to ask you a question. We're talking about all this food and everything else. But what about, and we're talking about vegetables and fruits, but now we got into this thing about insecticide, that everything is sprayed and everything is. So then now people are worried about, what fruits they eat, what should they eat, potatoes or whatever, vegetables. Now they're thinking about the insecticide. So now we've got the fast food, insecticide, and everything else. What do we do with the insecticide food? Is it that bad?
Well, certainly if it builds up in the system, obviously there are toxins that the body can't deal with in a safe way or eliminate it quickly enough, so it can have a possibility of building up. But, we can't avoid, unless we're growing our own vegetables in an organic patch and, living in a farm outside of the community, often we can't avoid the actual foods that we buy in supermarkets, etc. So in reality, rather than adding that stress to our lives, because stress is going to shut the digestive system down anyway, so rather than adding that stress, it's about making the point of washing all of our vegetables, ensuring that we buy as close to the source as possible. So if we've got farmers markets and we get familiar, develop a relationship with a local farmers market or a farmer who's distributing food from a market, to make sure that we get to know his growing processes, etc., and ensure that whatever food we do buy, whether it's through a farmer's market or not, wash it before eating it.
Good policy. Well, what about meat? What about meat? Sorry, folks. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was going to go there exactly. So that's fine.
Yeah. I wanted to know about meat, because now we've got the meat and the beef and the chicken. Now chicken are in all these coops and they're injected with everything to grow bigger, fatter, and It's true. They're injected with hormones so that little chickens that are 6 weeks old are fully grown and their little legs can't cope.
And we eat that.
And
it's just like us being injected. Same thing.
Except we're doing it through the mouth instead of through the
And we're self-injecting.
Same thing.
The thing is with all of this is that it's actually stuffing up our hormones. We've got, you've got 2-year-old boys with boobs. You've got 7-year-old girls getting periods. You've got it really mucks up the hormone. We really have to pay attention to it because our young girls look, there was an article yesterday about the Fijian girls or the girls over in certain countries. Can we please help them with money because they're being married off at the age of 8, and they're hurt because these men are 3 times older than them and bigger than them, but because they're getting their periods at such a young age, they feel like they're ready for, and that's to do with their exploitation. What I'm saying, though, is that the chemicals on the food, I lived on a farm and I got lupus. So for the people out there, washing your vegetables is absolutely mandatory because we didn't know. We were farming and we had every fruit and vegetable you could imagine. We could go out the door and pick tomatoes and beans and oranges and everything we wanted, peaches. And so we thought we were really healthy. Our dogs died in front of us. They literally put their front legs up and died because of the chemicals on the farm. None of us, we were so ignorant about that level of chemical. And I think the people out there are too ignorant about that it turns into estrogen in our body and we're over-estrogenated. And when we're over-estrogenated, some people, they won't let them go to court when they're over-estrogenated because they act like that bipolar goes ballistic. And so it can change us tremendously, as it did with Steve. Just that having to lie down after one donut. I mean, think about that. There's a lot of people out there that have ignored that. They've had that sick feeling for such a long time that they're used to it. They say, oh, it goes away soon. Or they'll go and have another tablet.
So what is this? Maggie, what's the answer? We're talking all about where we get all this food commonly. What do we do?
We listen to our body. When we begin to learn how to be consciously connected to our body, when we ask our body, how am I going to feel 30 minutes after eating this food? If the food is not able to be digested, the body will feel it. The body will give you a sensation of heaviness or lethargy or bloated feeling. If you're connected to yourself and your body and you ask the body about the food that you're about to eat, it will tell you whether it can do it. And if the body feels light, it means it can actually digest that food that day. So there'll be some days.
Maggie, but wait, but 90+% of humanity is not conscious. What are they supposed to do?
Well, the same thing and become conscious.
Learn how to just simply ask the question. Just learn how to simply ask the question, how will I feel 30 minutes after eating this food? If that is the only question that they ask themselves about the food and what choices they will make different choices. Within days, they'll start making different choices. They will feel, they mightn't even know, they might be holding a banana, and the body will feel heavy. They mightn't even know why it feels heavy, but when the body feels heavy, it sends a message to the brain that says, switch off the desire for this food. And so you physically don't want it anymore. If you'd held the donut in your hand, Steve, and asked your body how you're going to feel a half an hour after eating that, your body would have sent a message to your brain and given you the
come on, Maggie. That's how I live. That's how I live my life. Any time that I need to make a decision. But by the way, this is why I love to play poker, because poker is all about making decisions. Every moment, it's all about decisions. That's why I love the game, and because I played poker probably for more than 15 years, this is kind of in me, and so when I ask the question, if I would have asked that question that you just said, which is how I live my life, is what am I about to put in my mouth? Is it in the highest and best interest of me? I would have got the answer no, and I wouldn't have eaten it. But guess what? I wasn't conscious. I was disconnected.
I didn't react until a little later and realized
it was too late. By the time I realized what I did, I already did it.
So in those moments, again, it's just practice. It's exactly what Linda said. We need to bring the awareness in of practicing the choice, of either choosing the outcome, which is going to be lie down for half an hour because I can't cope with it, or choosing the outcome of moving our attention from our head down into our body. All unhealthy decisions about food are made from above the neck. They're made from the mouth because the taste is desired. They're made from the eyes because the greedy eyes and the greedy appetite are going, I want it, I want it. Or they're made from the head because they've got this inner critic program going on saying, I need it, I'm not going to cope without it. When I fell over when I was 3 at an unconscious level, Grandma gave me a cookie and it made me feel better, so the cookie's going to make me feel better, or the donut's going to make me feel better. So all the decisions that are made from here are going to be unconscious decisions. Any decision made from the body down, the body is a representation of our consciousness. Every cell, every muscle, every organ, every fiber of us is a representation of how we've ever thought, believed, and acted in the past. All of our perceptions, all of our belief systems. So when we bring our decision-making down into our body will always tell us what it needs, not what our greedy appetite wants.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, and it does tell you that, because there's many times when I just feel like I want some fresh fruit. But my mother and father, I believe that how you're brought up for your first few years, they were very, very healthy people, extremely. My mother made bread for as long as I was home, which was 16 years, so she made homemade bread every day. And so we had a lot of homemade stuff and a lot of stuff that was very healthy to us. And I think that's, as you said, that's got into my brain, and it seems to stay there. So I have these lovely urges. But is cottage cheese good for you?
Look, in moderation, everything that is unprocessed is good for you, yeah, in moderation. But it's a matter of looking at what quantity is healthy and listening to our body to know whether our body can. So some people might be able to take 3 teaspoons of cottage cheese and feel fine and be able to digest it. Other people could have 1 teaspoon and the body will feel bloated, heavy, and lethargic. So it's, again, that consciousness of listening to the body and making the choices about how much, how often, what type of food, and where the food comes from. And if we ask those questions of our body all the time, bringing our attention down, and again, exactly what Linda said, it is simply practice. And it's about a choice. We have to have the reason why we want the healthier option to be important for us. So I call that our why factor. So if, say, for instance, we have an inflammatory disease that these foods are reacting in the body, if our desire is to be healthy and to no longer be in that uncomfortable sensation of pain and to no longer have the swelling of the joints or to no longer feel so foggy in the head, if that desire is strong enough and we want the healthier solution-focused outcome, then we have to consciously choose to focus on the outcome. I want my body to be this uncomfortable sensation free. I want my body to be slimmer, fitter, less bloated. I want it to feel comfortable. I want to be comfortable in my own skin. I focus on that as my why, and that brings me to the ability to be able to choose to listen to my stomach or my body instead of my head and my eyes.
Yeah, awesome.
So how do we cope with these young people in school that don't really have that much of a choice of what we're giving them? Because that's where it kind of starts.
That's certainly, because we don't, in Australia, we don't have a lot of schools that actually provide lunches for them or provide food. Where a lot of schools are actually going a little bit healthy in their canteens and things as well.
So how do they make it through the day? What? Wait a minute.
What was that, Steve? What did you say?
How do the kids make it through the day in Australia if they don't eat?
They bring their food to school.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they bring their food.
They bring it from home.
What do they bring?
The peanut butter sandwiches.
Depending on the
peanut
family.
butter sandwiches is normal.
No, they do wraps. It's very popular now to do wraps. So you get that yeast-free flatbread, and they can put all the salad or grated carrot or whatever the kid likes, some ham and cheese or whatever they like, in the wrap, and kids are loving the wraps. They put an apple, they can put a bunch of grapes, they can put all sorts of goodies in that box. I mean, I ran a sports program for 14 years, and the kids brought their own lunch every day, and I really got a good view of what kids have in a lunchbox and how many kids don't bother with it or how many kids eat every skerrick of it. And some mums were meticulous about what was in the lunchbox and how the child would feel after that, especially at a sports camp. And so, yeah, the schools, as Maggie was saying, the school canteens, we call them here, they've gone a lot healthier, where the kids can still order their lunch, and you don't always get the choices that you used to get. Maybe the chocolate bars have gone, maybe there's fruit instead. You know, there's different choices now.
Oh wow, sounds good.
And less sodas and things.
So Maggie, my experience tells me that toxicity is everywhere. It's in the air, it's in the water, it's in the food, and the body is so magical that normally it would be able to handle everything that it needs to handle to protect us. But because there is so much, there's an overabundance of toxicity, and when our immune system doesn't know what to do with it, it basically says, okay, so I'm going to take this toxic material and put it in a fat cell because I can't deal with it right now, and I'll come back later. But later never comes.
Because there's more chemicals, there's more toxicity to deal with, because you can't come back to it because more toxicity, so more fat cells are required. And we don't actually develop any more fat cells after we're around 21, but our fat cells can grow up to 10 times their size, their original size. So they just actually start storing more.
So is it true then, Maggie? I just want to check this out, that the reason why 60% of Americans, for example, are overweight and obese is because of this phenomenon, not necessarily because they're eating themselves to, oblivious.
Well, between chemicals and toxins, I think the chemicals can form the toxins too, right, Maggie? You've got so many chemicals out there naturally. And people spray, there's a new spray for everything at the moment. You can spray for the cockroach and spray for this and spray for that. They take 7 years to gas off. That's a toxin in your body, and that changes your hormones. And all of a sudden, and then because some of the kids don't eat as many vegetables as they possibly could, they haven't got what we call the pH, the high pH, to override the high toxin. So with the pH high, we can now get a balance in the system. We're born basically with a pH body, but it doesn't take long after our foods and what we're introduced to turn it into a toxic bombshell, and hence, the pimples and the erratic behaviour, and I believe ADHD and all sorts of stuff, because I've actually done it where I've taken kids off their particular diet and off the Ritalin, and 26 kids no longer went back on it, just because you take the toxins out of their system and put in the high pH foods. And even if mum juices them or throws them into soups or whatever, to get those the vegetable content, which is our lovely pH, the balancer.
So I gotta connect horror movies right now to what we're talking about. It just came to me that I gotta do this. So you ladies know, when you watch a horror movie, and they're not my favorite, I hardly ever watch them, but I watched a few in my lifetime, so I know what it's like. So when there's something bad is going to happen, and usually it's women that go towards it. They won't walk away. They just, I don't know if because they're curious or whatever, but they're just not running away. They're just going towards it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think it's in the script, Steve.
Yeah. Okay. So I need Ninon to help us with this. Okay. So Los Angeles is well known to be the worst place to be in terms of air quality, and people are going towards it. They're not running away.
Well, you're putting a great example. You're also talking about, don't people see that they are rather large, and don't they see that they have a problem, and don't they see that they should really take care of what they're doing? That they don't. The same as going to live in LA. They're going to all the toxins. You go into the top of Mulholland. I lived in Mulholland, and you can see the layers of ozone, everything. I mean, and people just don't care. But then also people don't care about looking themselves in the mirror, and they're fat, and they're doing nothing about it. So, Maggie, why are people not, can't they not see what they look like, that they would want to do something?
Often they do, and the majority of people, certainly I see in clinic, are riddled with internal conflict. They desperately want to be healthy. There's a part of them that wants to be healthy, and there's a part of them that has programs that just cannot stop eating the food or going towards, the toxicity, as Steve put it. So that program can easily be switched off, but there has to, again, be a choice that they want to change it. And so usually by the time they get to me, they do want to change, that's why they're coming to me. But there are things people can do at home, and that's my mission, to get out there. I offer a lot of free webinars and things to help people around the world learn consciousness, learn to be able to make the choices that they can do something about stopping this inner conflict with the programming in their brain. There's a part of the brain that has our long-term memories. There's a part of our brain that has our instinct for survival. It's the part that keeps us breathing whilst we're asleep. It's the part that keeps our blood being pumped around our body. It's the part that keeps the organs running, the lymphatic system trying to push out the toxins, etc. It's also the part that learns in that first 7 years of life what makes it feel better and what keeps it safe. So if the child falls over when they're 2 and scrapes their knee and there's lots of blood, and grandma picks up the child and gives her a cookie and a cuddle, then the brain immediately latches onto the sugar in the cookie, and that part of the brain learns sugar comforted me. So that is what's called a default program. So for the rest of the life, that person has the desire for food in some way, whether it develops then into alcohol or drugs or whatever it is, it develops into a default program in the brain that says, I need food for survival, which we do, which is the problem, because that's the inner conflict. We do need, we can stop, if we decide we're going to stop cigarettes or drugs, we can stop and have them again. But if we decide that we want to stop overeating and stop moving towards this toxicity, we still have to be around food. We still need food to survive. So we're trapped in this conflict internally. But you can switch off the default program that isn't working for you and change it. It just takes time and persistence, and there are some very simple tools you can use at home.
I think that they also need a team around them. I think you need a team to help you. I'll just give you an example. I was on a movie set, and there was this woman in wardrobe, and she was humongous. And I happened to have a card with me where I was dealing with nutrition at the time. And I thought, shall I go and give this to the card? And I gave her the card, and I said, you probably never want to talk to me again. And she looked up, and she had tears running down her face, and she said, nobody had ever really cared about this before. She said, and you care. Cut a long story short, she must have weighed 450 to 500 pounds. And then she came up to see me in Vegas from Los Angeles, and she'd lost 120 pounds, and now she's lost, I believe, another 50 pounds. And it was because, and she always wants to prove to me that she's losing this weight. So I'm thinking that sometimes we need somebody else there just to help us, to give us that support, and sort of it's become a challenge. I'm going to show Nina what I can do. I'm going to show her that I lost this weight, that when she came up to me, she cared, and I'm going to show her that I'm caring too. So we need that support.
Definitely, absolutely. And as long as, like when you went up to her, you went up to her with compassion, but also detachment from the outcome. You were willing to let her hate you for bringing it into her consciousness.
Yes.
But in actual fact, she loved you for it. She was grateful for it because it gave her the impetus to know that somebody else wanted to see her healthy too.
Yeah,
so,
I think that cared, somebody that cared about her. And I just thought maybe I got a slap across the face. I really didn't care, actually, because I really thought, in my heart, I wanted to help her. And I'm just thinking that we really need to help. You know, I've got a girlfriend next door, and she just lost about 20 pounds, and she still looks large, but every time I say, wow, you're looking great, you're looking wonderful. I really, truly believe that people, even though they're not as skinny as you hope they will be, but give them that encouragement. And I think we all need that little sort of, that little push, that little encouragement.
Agreed. And it helps tremendously because then people feel supported. Most people have a desire to feel heard. They haven't had that experience at points throughout their life. And so when we've got all of these secret thoughts going, nobody has a quiet mind. Unless you're a Tibetan monk on a mountaintop and you've meditated for the last 15 years, most people's minds are very, very busy. And they've got all these thoughts going on. They've got all these emotions that are in conflict inside their body. And when somebody reaches in without prompting and hears one of their thoughts and brings it to the surface for them, it touches their heart and it brings an emotion forward. And as you said, that woman ended up crying and tears running down her face because she'd felt heard. You expressed the thoughts that she was having about herself.
Yeah, and it was, and there was another woman I remember a few weeks ago actually, and I looked at her and said, "Wow, she, you lost so much weight." She said, "Oh," she said, "at last someone noticed." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it's quite funny what we can verbally do to help other people, even if we don't know them. I think it's quite, you know, we should probably maybe start feeling that way. I know it's a little touchy subject with a lot of people, and you have to be careful, but at the same time, go for it. Why not?
Yeah, they
But if
normally
it's
wait until they've got a problem, and then the doctor actually gives them an ultimatum. If you don't lose that weight, or if you don't change your diet, or if you don't, then, you know, I mean, I got lupus before I changed, but
Yeah.
then, you know, my mother's was fantastic with food. She gave us the phenomenal. My problem was absolutely sugar. I craved it. My dad craves it. He's 91. I said to the doctor, should we reduce his sugar? And he said, for what purpose?
He's 91, you're right. So far, so good.
But, you know, what Maggie was saying before, where you can look at something and say, should I eat it? Sometimes we may not have the time to do that, or we want to go in and grab something and go. That's the way society is right now. So what I would say too is think about how you feel after you've had what you've eaten. Just have a think about that. Do I feel well? Do I feel light? Do I feel, was that good food for me?
Steve is an example. Steve, how do you feel?
Right now?
Oh, he laid down.
Oh, I feel great right now, but you know, for a half hour there, I wasn't doing so well.
So that's a good example of what not to do. And is it kind of it's like Maggie, is it like a couple of seconds that you can change your mind? Because I've been often told that something goes through your mind, and if you can just avoid it within those seconds, you don't have,
yes,
you wouldn't have had to have that
4
donut.
to 5 seconds. 4 to 5 seconds. You've got to think about even a craving for food
Yes.
or a thought is actually a neural pathway. It's an electrical circuit running through the brain. And it's moving through into the area of the brain that I call the pharmacist, the part of the brain that's actually dispensing all the chemicals. So it's going to make you move chemicals down through the body and reach for the sugar or the candy bar. It's going to make you activate the saliva glands so that you desire it more. Just as quickly as the light switch can go on and all of that chemical reaction happen, you can just as quickly turn it off. And it's about doing conscious choice to do a couple of little simple strategies just to simply witnessing the craving. So witnessing, is it in my head? Is it in my mouth? Is it in my eyes? Is it in my chest? Where is the craving actually coming from? Is it a thought? And then you're simply saying to yourself, that's not me. That's not my consciousness. That's simply wiring in my brain. I choose to switch that wiring off. And just by doing that, and you can do that in public, silently in your own mind. Nobody needs to know what's happening. You're just witnessing the electrical surge that's causing the craving, and you're choosing to recognize that's not me, that's not my consciousness, that's a wiring, that's craving, that's a neural pathway firing in my brain. I choose to switch it off.
A desire. Those desires are crazy, because I love Cadbury's chocolate, and they sell it everywhere now. And I'm walking past them thinking, shall I or shan't I? I will, because I know that I buy that whole big bar, I'm going to eat the whole thing. I know that. So, and you're right. It's the wiring in your brain that you suddenly say no. And if you keep walking, it's funny. It disappears.
Practice with, over the next couple of weeks, when you notice those thought processes coming, because whether it's a thought or an emotion or a craving, it's just wiring. So as you hear that thought in your head, then what I want you to do is just practice, that's not me, that's just wiring, I switch it off. And in the moment, you can be still looking at the chocolate and the craving will dissipate. If it's very strong, because it's a very deeply embedded neural pathway, then you might need to do that 5 or 6 times in a row. That's not me, that's not wiring. If it's incredibly strong, all you might want to do is use a bit of EFT points. So you might, as you're doing it, that's not me, that's just wiring. There the craving is, it's in my mouth, I switch it off, I switch it off. That's not me, that's just wiring. And you might want to just keep doing those points.
Touching all over your face in those different points.
Which is where the hand-to-mouth experience happens. So you want to be able to break the hand-to-mouth experience of eating.
So, Steve, if I see you doing that next time, I know you're trying to waver away from a donut.
You may have to wait a few years when that happens again.
What's this thing?
I think the other thing that happens though too, when we're born with what we call SOD levels, sodium oxide dismutase. It's an antioxidant level. So when we are a kid, like Maggie said, and we fall over and hurt our knee, etc., we heal very quickly, and our SOD levels just repair everything, and we get used to that, and we get rewarded with a cookie or whatever. But as we get older, the SOD levels or our antioxidant levels run out. And then all of a sudden, we're doing the same thing, it's the same habit, but we don't have the system, we don't have the things in our body to help rid ourselves of all the toxins that we just got from that food. And so now they're all stored in fat cells to protect us, like we learnt. That's why sometimes when people detox, they feel terrible because all the gunk's coming out of the fat cells. And I'll say, that's great, just let it happen. You'll feel amazing. 3 days.
3 days it takes? How long does it take, Maggie?
Well, I do it in now. Just warm fruit for breakfast, steamed vegetables for lunch, steamed vegetables for dinner, hot water in between. You do that for 2 days and you feel absolute full of clarity. I always lose a kilo, so if I put on half a kilo or a kilo, it comes off immediately. Just do that once a month, and honestly, you're clear for the next month. So at the end of the month, which is coming up, I'll do my 2-day fast or 2-day fruit and veggie. Well, everything's got to be warm, and then I've got that clarity for the month ahead.
Why does it have to be warm, Linda?
Because you're in the fitness industry, we learned that your skin temperature is 34 and your blood and inside temperature is 38. So the cellulologist at Sydney Uni, when I got lupus and came back with it from Africa, he said to me, if you do this, then it's absorbed immediately because it's warm and the cells. So it's not a diet, it's actually a cell clean out. You are simply cleaning out your cells, and I tell you what, you don't crave anything after that. You just feel so calm, the thought processes are so clear. So if I'm having a foggy day, the next day I will just set aside a day to do my warm fruit for breakfast, steamed veggies for lunch, steamed veggies for dinner. And I don't care who's coming over or where I'm going. You will find every restaurant has a bowl of steamed veggies. I don't care what's in it. I stick to my guns and I have the hot water in between, and you're just simply flushing out the donut.
Now, wait a minute, you're saying back to the donut. Oh, Steve, you created something here.
Oh my God, I'm going to be hearing about this.
Yeah, you're not going to have the end.
That's okay. That's okay.
Linda, when you talk about the warm water, are you talking about just drinking warm water?
Yep, like this. A mug of warm water.
I couldn't think of anything worse. Can I post
When I came back from Africa and I was really sick, I had big lumps here. Under my arms, in my groin. It looked like half of a tennis ball. That's how big they were. I studied the body for 9 years to learn what happened, and all the lymph glands and the T cells, etc., the things that come and help you fight the immune system, they all line up like army. And if you don't have the lumps, then you're really sick. So I used to go to Sydney University, and he'd say, "Oh, great, we're going to get a reading today." He'd get excited.
What about
and
tea?
he put me onto the hot water.
Can I not have tea in there?
I
drink a lot of tea. All day long.
And tea's great. It's just, the minute you add anything to water, it's a food. It has to be digested.
Oh, okay. So I'm digesting all day long. Well,
what about you're getting a lot of water?
So,
Linda, what about adding something like a squeeze of lime or a squeeze of lemon?
Yeah, a lemon in the morning is the most neutral thing you can have, and a lot of people could do that. I just buy a lemon and just cut a hunk off it every day, a little bit, not much at all, and put it in the hot water, and it's the most neutral thing you can have. So you want to raise your pH and get rid of that acid. That's the best thing to do. But then I was told lemon with water through the day when you're having food becomes an acid. So I've never had it actually through the day. I only have it first thing in the morning and keep it at that neutral self.
Interesting.
That's good to know.
right, so none of you are saying this, but I'm hearing it in between the things that you're saying, which is we can no longer depend on, I don't know if there are organizations in Australia, but here in America we have the infamous FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, that's supposed to quote-unquote protect us from all these bad things, but obviously they are not doing a very good job. So we have to be responsible for our own choices or our own decisions. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Absolutely accurate.
Yeah, there you go. 3 women saying absolutely, Steve. So now you know that, yes. But
Oh,
you
now I know it's absolutely.
I mean, we're all in control of our bodies for whatever we do, whether we're in business or whether we're driving or whatever we're doing. We're in control of ourselves. We can't allow somebody else to be in control of it. And yet we seem to allow other people or our brain or whatever to be in control of our food because we obviously are not in control of that.
See, Steve, if you're allowing the donut to control you, then you're disempowered to the donut. I mean, imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
How on
I admitted it freely that I was disempowered today. Yes.
I think
I love your example. It was good.
I think one of the keys to helping people take that responsibility for themselves is to have knowledge of where they're going. You know, there's an old saying that says, if you don't know where you're going, you're definitely going to get there. Yeah. So if you don't know where you're going and you end up wherever that is, most of the time that's unconscious choices, unconscious food, unconscious health, and you end up in a place that you've never wanted to be and you don't know how you got there.
I usually say to that, Maggie, that if you don't know where you're going, you can end up anywhere.
Absolutely anywhere. You'll definitely get anywhere. That's not like where you're going and where you get
to. You might get surprised where you end up.
So one of the first ways to become conscious and to start taking responsibility is to get clarity on what you want instead of this. So to work out what your why is. Why do you want health? Why do you want to eat better? Is it because you want to lose weight? Is it because you want to show a great example to your children? Is it because you want to be able to walk into a store and buy clothes off the rack and not dread going shopping? Is it because you want to wear a bikini on the beach this summer? Is it because you want to live longer and have energy for your grandchildren? Find out what your why is. And when you focus on that why, you're able to make more conscious decisions about the outcomes, where you want to go instead of this unknown outcome. I'm just eating because I need food every day. But when we know we're going somewhere and we're moving towards that solution and we're asking our body how it feels, what it needs, what food to choose, how it's going to feel after we eat that food, then all of a sudden we're moving towards our goal. We're moving towards that energy to spend with our grandchildren. We're moving towards the swimsuit. We're moving towards the clothes in the store that we can fit into. And we're moving towards self-confidence and self-esteem and body confidence. So
this is absolutely true. I know it because I experienced this for myself. But how I actually accomplished this for me is I learned to love me.
Yes.
And loving me meaning just the way I am. Like I didn't have to get somewhere. I didn't have to have a certain amount of money. I didn't have to drive a certain kind of car anymore. I could just love me for who I am. And as soon as I was able to accomplish that, everything else just unfolded naturally.
And you feel comfortable in it. You feel self-confident, and you feel very comfortable. Whereas before, you probably felt to impress everybody, you had to have the BMW, and you had to have all this money, and you had to gamble and have the prettiest woman on your arm.
The good-looking girls, yeah. All of that jazz.
I only said one, not two.
Yes,
maybe it was three. Maybe it was three. I don't know.
I have to repeat this. I said this to somebody yesterday evening. I went out with a friend of mine. So here's what I said. So when I was young. Okay, young meaning in my 20s or a teenager or whatever, but maybe in my early 20s. When I had, I seen lots of beautiful women with beautiful cars. They were in beautiful Italian cars because I grew up in Europe, and I always said to myself, okay, so which one would I want, the car or the woman? And I chose the woman. And then as I got older, it kind of switched on me, like. I'd rather have the car than the woman. And then as I got even older, now I don't want either one.
Oh, so now you want the car and the woman. Now you want both.
No, I don't want either.
That's why you can have a donut. You've only got to please you.
So
Whatever any
Maggie,
of this means.
so Maggie, what is the best advice you can give for somebody out there that's overweight and is depressed and down? How do they make that first step, and what can you help them with?
Get clear on what they want to achieve first, how they want to feel instead.
Okay.
If you can't get clear on that, seek help. There are so many people out there with the intent to help others people. Exactly. And get clear on the intent. Get clear on why you want this. Then begin to just move all decisions about food below your head. Take all decisions about food into your body. Begin to just practice bringing your attention from down through your mouth, down into your neck, down into your chest, and into your stomach. Everyone's stomach, as a rule of thumb, is the size of their own fist. So if you just close your fist, that's the size of your stomach. And so if we think about the quantity of food that we're eating, if we chew it to a paste, it should only fit inside that fist. Any more than that is toxicity to the body. Whether it's healthy food or not, too much is toxicity because the digestive system is in the stress response. It can't cope with it. So if we make decisions about our food and the food choices that we make from the body by practicing bringing our attention down into the body, even placing our fist on where our stomach is, and just consulting our body. How am I going to feel after eating this food? So get clear on why you want the change, seek help if you can't find the clarity, and then come down inside your body, practice coming down inside your body and bringing your consciousness, your awareness into your body and make decisions from there. And everything else that's not me, that's just wiring. That's unconsciousness, it's just wiring.
That's where I came up with that saying, Maggie, of next. Just, when you go to have something and you know it's not good for you, just go next, and that takes 2 or 3 seconds, and you're already over it. As I said, Steve, I have walked past that donut shop for 4 years now, and I never have bought one. Never, because right next door is a farmer's market, and that's where I'm heading nearly every day to buy my fresh veggies.
Oh, wow. That's
and it's just that, you say next. I mean, yeah, I like them. As a kid, my boy, we used to get them at the airport and bring them home for everybody in the big boxes. But I have no intentions of even I mean, you can see them. They look beautiful. All the kids are hanging around after school with their mums.
Yeah.
I never, The things that get me would be the Easter buns. They are my weakness. I don't have bread at all in my life, except for Easter. I really like an Easter bun.
Well, I have to confess to Steve that, Steve, I absolutely love donuts, and you have no idea the willpower, and this is how I know, the willpower of not having one. And it's like, and that's why I know that it's just that few little seconds that can go by, and if I just get over that, I can keep, and if I keep walking, you can't have that, you guys, it's tough. But I love to, so Steve, I understand how you feel.
Yeah. Well, I have
or just say to yourself, once on the lips, forever on the hips.
I have no trouble giving it up. So hey, listen to this. Nina, you will be proud of me. So last Saturday, my daughter invited me for dinner, and they grilled these beautiful steaks, and they were about that big. And
big.
When I got to half of it, I was like listening to my body, what it said, just like Maggie said. And it was enough. I was satisfied. It was very tasty, and I gave the other half up. Now, 2 years ago, I would have never done that. I would have eaten the whole thing.
I wanted more.
Regardless of what my body was telling me.
Yeah, or anybody was saying to you. But so you've reached a long way, Steve. I'm very proud of you for that. You've done it. That's very, very good. That's the Bing Crosby diet. The Bing Crosby diet was he would have half of everything on his plate, just half it. Half the steak, half the whatever it was, he would only eat half of it. That was called the Bing Crosby diet. So I don't know how good that is, but that's what you're doing, Steve. So it's pretty cool.
Well done.
All right. So I know we've done a lot on the show about conscious eating for health. And you even identified very elegantly, Maggie, about what consciousness is. But I want to make sure that we also mention what is not consciousness, which is not being connected, and it's really about confusion, deception, manipulation, fear, and force. And the reason I want to say that is that when people notice when we are disconnected, and I didn't do a good job of it today,
No.
but I notice most of the time when there is confusion present, if any of these things are present, confusion, deception, manipulation, fear, and force, I know I'm disconnected.
Yeah, and you were this afternoon.
Obviously, this afternoon I was confused.
You were disconnected, totally. But then it doesn't, yeah, but you see, Steve, if you hadn't have done that, we wouldn't have known.
And I forced myself. You know, I was disconnected. I was confused. I forced myself to have the donut. Nobody put the gun to my head, but I did it anyway. So and I was manipulative. So just look how all of this stuff is present. I was manipulating myself because I was talking myself into it. I justified it. I manipulated
Maybe
myself.
your higher self was bringing it forward for you so that we could have this discussion today and
That's
you could
right.
learn the real
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I think it was a good thing you did, actually. I'm very glad you did that, Steve. We have something to fall on, which we're now going to call the show the Donut Show.
And it really brought home to you the importance of health for your body, didn't it? Because you had an instant physical reaction. So your higher self just gave you the best wisdom, the best gift that they could possibly give you for your body.
Yeah, absolutely. I can assure you that this will not happen anytime soon. Maybe never ever again.
Well, I don't know about that, Steve. So.
Well, we shall see.
We'll
But
try.
at least I am happy to report it if I step out of line again. All right, so this was a fantastic show, Maggie. Thank you very much for being so clear. Really, that's who you are in the world, Maggie. Is clarity itself.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being who you are and working with us here, playing with us actually on Living Consciously TV, which happens, of course, every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. And after the show, we're going to go on to a couple of weeks of break because I think, getting on to the 14th season. Is that possible?
Yes.
Oh my God, this is 40 years of this Living Consciously TV. It's absolutely fantastic. And we can all do this pretty much on automated pilot now. Is that true?
Yes, definitely. I love the show. I look forward to the show, Steve. I really do, because I always look forward to the guests. Because the guests always have such beautiful things to say.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Maggie was very, very clear. Very clear. I love that.
Yeah. So thank you again, and we'll see you, everybody. If you were touched, moved, and inspired by anything Maggie said or any one of us said, please keep coming back to ConsciousEvolutionMedia.com and keep watching these shows. If you watch them, when you watch them on YouTube, the more you watch them, the more they go up on the top 10 list every month, and we have the possibility of taking them to public television. So thank you all, and we'll see you 2 weeks from now. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
Bye.
Thank you, Neenan. Thank you, Linda. Great to meet you. Bye all.
Yeah, you too, Maggie.